is to see our spiritual master satisfied. That's basically the thing he wants. That's basically what his purpose of coming here is to please his devotee.
Krishna is coming to Yadaya Dharmasya Glanya Bharati Bharata. He's coming to re-establish Dharma and Paritanaya Sadhana Vinashana to give pleasure to his devotee and annihilate the miscreants. So that's why he's coming. But the process of how he allows us to get purified and really make advancement in spiritual master is by serving. Because now our obstacle or our dilemma or problem is that we are envious of Krishna. That's why we are here in the material world. So Krishna is giving us an opportunity to remove that envy by serving. So he says, you cannot serve me directly, but you serve my devotee. This one who serves my devotee is higher than serving me directly. So you serve my devotee, and especially the pure devotee. So by doing that, Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasada, Yasya Prasada Nagatikato. By doing that, by serving the spiritual master, one gets the mercy of Krishna. And without that quality or that activity, one cannot make any progress. So that's the purpose of Krishna. Krishna is not really coming to actually, he doesn't need really serving our service, but we need it. We need that service. We need that activity because that's the means Krishna has given us to purify our hearts. By doing service, Krishna gives us the ability to, or Krishna actually himself purifies the heart. And then gradually we see what is right and what is wrong. So Krishna comes to re-establish Dharma really, and give the devotees pleasure.
Yeah. Because I don't remember his name, but he's probably mentioned a lot in Chaitanya Charitamrita and these similar books describing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But he was praying for Lord Chaitanya to appear, and that's, as I understood, that's why he appeared.
Advaita.
Yeah, so the way that I understood it is that he comes simply to please his devotee, his devotee who prays for the conditioned souls, and then Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu to please his devotee by helping the conditioned souls.
Yeah. So the whole thing is connected. That of course the devotee, that's why he comes Paritanaya Sadhanam to give pleasure to his devotee. That's the main thing why he's coming. But because he knows the mind of his devotee, so the devotee he wants Krishna to come and re-establish Dharma. He wants him to come and annihilate the miscreants. So Krishna he comes to mainly to give pleasure to his devotee. And by doing that, giving pleasure to his devotee is by maintaining Dharma or re-establishing Dharma. So Advaita he was calling out together with Srivasa. They were calling out, please come and when they saw things became degraded. So please come and re-establish Dharma. And then Krishna reciprocates with his devotee. That's love.
I was just also thinking about these different services that there are, that quite a few spiritual masters have been washing pots for a long time. I remember one spiritual master like Harikes, he had a big education and his parents came to the temple and his mother started screaming, "We were giving you this huge education, tons of money, and you are washing pots." And then he said, "Yes, and for the first time in my life, I am blissful."
There's a story of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master. And a person came to him, right, a minister, very highly distinguished, elevated personality. So he came and he said, I have had this question for a long time from Bhagavad Gita, and I asked so many gurus, nobody could answer this question. So can I please ask you this question? Can you please tell me the essence? And he said, "I'm busy right now, but you go and ask the pot washer in the kitchen." So he became a little, this is a very highly, I asked so many gurus and elevated personalities and nobody could answer this question. So, but he was also submissive. So he had a guru, he said, "Go and ask the pot washer." So he went down and asked the pot washer. And he said, "I have this question to you." "Oh yeah, I'll ask you, can you please help me?" And then again he thought, I'm a minister here, but anyway he was asked, so he started helping him washing the pots. And as he was standing there washing the pots, the answer just came to his mind. It's a true story. So he went up back to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and told, this pot wash is fantastic. I was just standing here washing the pots and the answer just popped in my head. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, that is bhakti. That you perform service and then it comes. Krishna gives it from within. So actually, again, as we spoke before, the spiritual master is via media for Krishna. So Krishna is giving Divya Gyan Vida Prakusita. So it's revealed from within the heart by doing the right activity. So when we serve Krishna without any motive, and the Abhyasata Sunyam, if you have no motive, you just serve Krishna just to serve him, in order to please the spiritual master, the real knowledge of how to make advancement will be given from within. So that's why we see all the 8 elevated spiritual masters, how did they get to that position? We know when Prabhupada started the movement, it was mostly hippies and actually drug addicts. But by engaging them in service, gradually all these anatas, all these unwanted things became cleansed from their heart, and they became pure devotees. So that's the power of bhakti. That's because by doing this, you're pleasing Krishna. When Krishna sees we actually trying to serve him through the spiritual master, serve the spiritual master, then as we hear in this verse, he cleanses the heart, or he gives them the real knowledge by submissive inquiries and by service.
How can we develop our faith and the instructions of spiritual master?
How can we develop the faith and the instructions of the spiritual master? Yasya Deva Tatha Gurau Tashyate Katatayata Prakashante Mahatma. That one who has complete faith in the spiritual master and the Lord, for him all the imports of the Vedas is automatically revealed. So when we see that actually we are serving the spiritual master and we get a result, that develops faith. But otherwise we just need to start with, the whole process start with Shraddha, there's some faith. So we just need to start somewhere. So if we have just a little faith, we try to invest that. So we try to invest that for some time. Okay, I have faith. This person is a very elevated personality and he saved so many persons, and you can see he made so many disciples all over the world and he has all these good qualities. So maybe I should invest my faith in him. So if first you observe from the distance and you see all these disciples and how you actually interact with them. And then you actually start seeing that they're getting good result. His disciples are actually becoming elevated Vaishnavas. Then you can see, maybe I should try to serve him, and then you get a result. So by acting, like how do you, all we are doing is built on faith, really. You're sitting on the floor now. You have complete faith that the floor will hold you up. You walk into an apartment, even on 10th floor, you're not afraid, right? Even if the floor breaks and you fall all the way down, or you go on the balcony, right, and it breaks, you will fall all the way down. So no, you have faith, because you've been doing so many times. I've been sitting on the floor, I've been walking on the floor, so it normally holds me up. So faith needs to be built on some kind of foundation, that we see it, we observe it for some time and see that it actually works. And then we start applying it in our lives. And by using it in our life, you can see, okay, I did this and I get this result. So if you are following a process or spiritual master or whatever, and it doesn't give the necessary result, the real result, that's something wrong. If you follow rightly. So that's why the path of bhakti is very, very, Prabhupada used to call it, it's a scientific process. That you do something and you get a result. So if the result is not there, there's something wrong. Either in the process or in the one performing the process, executing the process. So if one is completely sure I'm doing my very best, I'm following the process here, then most likely it's the process not right. So in this sense one has to find out, right? First by observing others, what is the result they are getting by following this process. Are they actually getting good qualities? Are they actually becoming real Vaishnavas? And if you can say yes to these questions, then you try doing it yourself. And you do it, you get a result.
For example, we have received a few instructions from the spiritual master, and we are not, for some time, I can able to do that. And after that, by obstructing with Maya and some other bodily engagements or with my religions, I could not able to do that instructions. Is this because of a lack of faith or because of any other reason to not able to fulfill the instructions of spiritual master?
We are conditioned, so we need to do the best we can. We need to do the best we can. But of course, if we are not following the instruction, let's say the spiritual master stay away from eating meat, and we still do, of course we will not get the necessary result. Because that is contradicting that. It's like jumping into the water and expecting to get dry. So that is a contradiction. That won't happen, even if you do it on the order of the spiritual master. Right? Because you're not following his instructions. He says, if you want to get dry, don't jump into the water. But you still jump into the water and still expect to get dry. That is stupidity. Right? So, yes, the result will not come until we are qualified and ready to follow the instructions. Then the whole result will not come. But just by starting up what we are ready to do, we have to start somewhere. But we should not get initiated until we are ready to follow the instructions. We can still follow, we can still get instructions, but we should not make the ritual of initiation before we are very, very keen on and very, very interested and very determined to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. Because otherwise it becomes guru aparat. You're actually doing the opposite. Instead of following the instructions of the spiritual master, you're disobeying them. And that is one of the offenses against chanting the holy name, to disobey the spiritual master. And that's detrimental for our chanting. So, but again, we are conditioned, so we have to work with what we have. So if there's some rules one is not ready to follow, maybe it's better to wait with initiation until one sees that now I'm ready to follow these instructions. So that's why it's so important to find the right spiritual master that will not cheat you. Because there's so many cheaters out there. Many, 99% most likely are cheaters. Many cheaters. So we have to be very, very careful because it's such a step to take. It's very serious because it determines if you're going back to Godhead or not. If one is serving a spiritual master who is not pure and is not in the pure parampara, one will not get that desired result. One can become more pious and one can do more pious activities and one can even become more devoted, but one will not go back to Godhead. It needs to be in a proper guru parampara. Serving a spiritual master is actually a bona fide spiritual master. So that's more important than finding a wife. And really, because when you find a wife, you'll really be certain, or your parents will really do their best to find a wife that are proper, right? So there will be less problems, as little problems as possible. That actually is a person you can spend the rest of your life with. So in that sense, the spiritual master is even more important. So we have to be very, very careful when we take decisions, these kind of decisions, because we are gambling with our spiritual life. So that's why when you see that the disciples are actually getting the result, and the spiritual master is actually living as his spiritual master told him, as his spiritual master told him, as ultimately Krishna told him. So that's why whatever we are doing in the Hare Krishna movement is we are always following 3 reference points. There's the Guru, there's the Sadhu, and there's Shastra. So there's the scriptures. If it's in the scriptures, the Guru will follow what is in the scriptures. And the Sadhu will follow the same. So if the Guru is speaking what is in the scriptures, then we can trust him. If the Sadhu is speaking what is in the scriptures, then we can trust him. But if the Guru is speaking what is not in the Bhagavad Gita, what is not in Srimad Bhagavatam, we shouldn't. Then he's deviating. Then he's no longer a representative of Krishna. He's making his own movement, so to say. He's making his own agenda. And that's what's happening many places around the world, especially in India. So many self-proclaimed gurus coming with their agenda. I think it's like this, or I believe that Krishna is meaning this, or I believe Krishna is saying that. Man, Krishna can perfectly well communicate to us. He doesn't have a communication problem. So that's why Prabhupada called Bhagavad Gita as it is. He doesn't change it. It's as it is. Because it's so difficult for us to really find out what is right and what is wrong. Because whatever we are trying to figure out really is going through the mind. And the mind is material. And so is the intelligence. So we are trying to find out what is right and what is wrong, but we do it with material vehicles, so to say, or material facilities that are imperfect. So that's why when you find a spiritual master that is above, who have transcended the mind and the material intelligence, and working directly on the level of the soul, and the soul is connected to Krishna, that's perfection. Then your life is perfect. And then of course one have to do the very best one can to serve him and follow his instructions. But also the spiritual master will never give you an instruction you cannot follow. Of course you can choose to say, I will not follow. That's different. But you can. Because again, Krishna is working through the spiritual master. So Krishna knows exactly what you can do and what you can't do. So he will not give you an instructions that you can't follow.
I was just thinking that sometimes, like Prabhupada, he got an instruction, but it took 40 years to carry it like really out. Yeah. But still he did it like whatever he could in his grihastha ashram, like step by step. So.
Yeah. Well, it's also, he didn't get the instruction to please go down on the corner and buy me 2 apples. That was not the instruction he got from the spiritual master. He was told, spread Krishna consciousness all over the Western world. So Prabhupada did. When after 40 years he went to America, right? He started a whole movement in 10 years back then. Temples all over the world. Who else can do a thing like that? And Prabhupada was even asked once, why did you wait so long to come to America? And Prabhupada says it's a very, very difficult thing to teach. I think he said, teach, not preach. It's a very difficult thing to teach. I had to prepare myself. So what was Prabhupada's preparation? He translated all the books.
But many of us may get some kind of instruction where one may contemplate and, like it said in the mind in Kali Yuga, not that this is an excuse, but just like this Prabhu is saying that, due to circumstances, sometimes you are not able. I mean, we should follow the 4 regulative principles and chant 16 rounds, but outside of that, if the Guru had asked you to do a certain thing, specific thing, then if the desire is there to please the spiritual master, but time is like in between, like Prabhupada said.
But the thing is, if the spiritual master says, for instance, do this service for me and do it within half a year, then you can do it within half a year. But if he says, please do this service, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the Prabhupada spiritual master, he didn't say go to America tomorrow and spread this movement all over the world. He just gave him the instructions. And he didn't tell him how to go to America. He didn't tell him what exactly he should do practically when he came to America. He only said go to the Western world and spread Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada had to figure out exactly how to do that, in what kind of time frame. And so that was there. And he didn't say you have to do it within a month or half a year or a year or 10 years. He didn't say anything like that. He just gave him the instructions. So Prabhupada, he calculated or he planned his way in such a way, I have to prepare myself. One thing, I have to bring some books. Right? What should I do if I have nothing to present to people? So he's preparing himself. And beside that, he was trying to, because it was not easy then to just go to America. You needed all these things. You need to have somebody there to guarantee for you, make a guarantee for you that actually they will take care of you more economically and logistically, or what you're saying, or give you a place to live. So you need, there was all these things. So it was not just Prabhupada, he just went down and bought a plane ticket and just went to Sheraton. That was not how he did it. He practically went with nothing. And that was after he, for many, many years, had tried in so many ways to accumulate some money or to get the yellow card and all these things. Very complicated in these days for an Indian to go to America. So all the circumstances were there, and actually it was Krishna's plan, because Prabhupada came to America just the right time. The whole thing was there, the hippie movement, everything was just ready, just waiting for Prabhupada to come. So when Prabhupada ended up in the middle of New York, people would just say, hey, an Indian guru here. And they just came and they wanted to hear from him, and kirtans in the park, people just came in big quantities. And, wow, kirtan. They didn't know, of course, kirtan. And there was one Swami sitting there in the middle of the park chanting Hare Krishna. And everyone became attracted. And just by seeing him for a few hours, many of them went back with him to the temple. And he just sat down and gave a lecture and said, okay, where can we join? What should we do? Where should we sign up? Because they were just ready, because there was so much frustration, the whole hippie culture, and everybody, so many people were going to India searching for a guru. The whole thing was just ready. So Krishna arranged that Prabhupada was not allowed to leave India before America was ready to receive him. So when he came, it just exploded. And then disciples came, and Prabhupada immediately started sending his disciples first to San Francisco, right? Just been in a movement. Imagine this, you're coming like a hippie, and you say, okay, you sit down with the Swami and chant a little in the park, and then you come to him, listen for a few hours in his center, and say, oh, this is interesting, can you learn more about this? Yeah, Prabhupada, you just become a disciple. So after a few months, he says, now you're ready, now you go to San Francisco and open a temple. And they did. They had very little knowledge. They had no foundation. They were practically still hippies. But because it was empowered by Prabhupada and Krishna. So even these persons with no qualification, they opened a center in San Francisco. And Prabhupada came there, and then all the people there, the hippies in San Francisco, they saw and heard from Prabhupada. And this is very interesting. And they became disciples. And in this way, Prabhupada started the whole movement. He started just traveling all over the world, because disciples went then to London, and they met the Beatles, and George Harrison became a devotee, and they donated his own estate to the devotees. And then there was a huge temple in London, and the Beatles helped them make a record that made the hit list in all of Europe, and made so much money, actually mostly to the Beatles, but still. That made the devotees very famous, so they went into nightclubs and singing, chanting Hare Krishna. And then everybody all over London, all over Europe actually, all of a sudden knew about Hare Krishna movement. So when the devotees, they were out in the street chanting, people just gathered in hundreds, right? Because they are famous. So in this way, the movement just spread all over the world, because the timing was right. So that's the spiritual master. He's inspired by Krishna from within. So that's why everything he does is perfect. Even this Prabhupada was struggling to go to America, but Krishna always put up these obstacles. Right? So now's the time. And then he got a free lift, you could say, on a boat, and ended up in New York. And he says in his diary, when I went off the ship, after having 2 heart attacks on board Janaduta, the ship, when I went aboard from the ship and stood there in the harbor, I didn't know if I should turn right or left. He just stood there with his suitcase. So by this, he started a whole worldwide movement in a few years. That's a sign of the Guru, that he is capable of taking that task, making disciples all over the world. That's a sign. That's actually mentioned in Caitanya Charitamrita, that you can see a spiritual master of how he is capable of getting so many people to become Vaishnavas. So in that sense, just to put our commercial, that if if one want to be sure, why not take a personality who did that? Follow personalities who really did that. No one else. So many tried. Go outside India. See, in India it's somewhat easy because the whole culture is there. But go to America, the most degraded place in the world. And then spread a worldwide movement. And then come back to India and see what ISKCON is in India today. So only one person did that in the history of mankind. Only one person did that. So that's in itself a proof of he is a bona fide personality. And when you study the life of Srila Prabhupada, seeing how he was living his life, he came to America with practically no money. He had a few rupees, but they were useless. They couldn't be even changed. So he had an umbrella and some Bhagavatam he translated. That was his possession, and more or less the clothes he was standing in. And eventually, by starting this whole movement, he got millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. But he never used anything on himself. People were starting calling him God, or whenever they did something like that, Prabhupada would not be appreciative. On the contrary, he threw them out of the movement. Some of his leading disciples, they started preaching Prabhupada is God, and Prabhupada threw them out of the movement. Because that's Mayavadi philosophy. Why are they saying Prabhupada is God? Because when Prabhupada dies, I can become God. So that's how they sees. So there's so many cheaters, but you can see when you study Prabhupada's life that he was genuine. Whatever he did, he got so much money. Whatever he got, he simply used it to give people Krishna consciousness. Opening temples, printing books, distributing books. On his deathbed, with his last life breath, he was not calling out, cry and help, or he was lying there translating Srimad Bhagavatam. Because he saw this is so important. People are suffering in this world without Krishna consciousness. People are suffering. We need to give them the real knowledge. We need to give them the Vidya knowledge of how to get out of this entanglement, how to attain unlimited happiness, how to go back home, back to Godhead. That was his life mission, and he helped so many people. And he's still, even though he's not here physically anymore, still he's helping so many people. So that's a spiritual master. Then you're certain. Anyone else, like he can have disciples, or he can have aura, or he can have all kind of facilities. He can be a very attractive person. He can be have so many facilities. He can be rich. He can have all these facilities, but is he ready to sacrifice himself for the need of everyone else? That's the real qualification. He's sacrificing his life, his money, his life heirs, everything to preach Krishna consciousness. When you see such a person, you should surrender your life, because they are rare.
Just like you said, when Prabhupada was on the deathbed, he had not eaten for many, many months, and he was just bones. But still, the last sentence he was translating, Krishna is the supreme controller, the supreme enjoyer. If you understand this, this is Krishna consciousness, and then he left.
And he said, some of his last words was, you can show your love for me how you cooperate unitedly to spread this movement. In essence, follow up on my work, continue my work. That he told his disciples. And that's what they are humbly trying, and we, his grand disciples, are humbly trying in our very humble way to follow that instruction also. So maybe we just end by singing Dhammam Rastakam.